Hello guys, today we'll talk about wrong side states for the Democrat, for Democrats. So we have wrong side states for Republicans. Someone already did that, so I'm gonna do the opposite. Do Republicans have a chance of winning? Can we go by county in this one? Uh this is gonna be pretty difficult because they don't have the by county in this one. They have one in New York Times, but it's pretty confusing because they have a by precinct as well. So yeah, we're gonna work for it. Does CNN have a good one? This one wanted to say by county. Here we go. We have one that's by county. This is the CNN one. As much as they do not like CNN that much. So this is basically the wrong side states. And we're not gonna talk about Texas in this video because I think that yes, Democrats do probably have a genuine shot of possibly flipping Texas. Say if you're in North Carolina, but we're talking about the first wrong side state, and that's Florida. Oh, but Florida was only within three, but if you look at the trends in Florida, okay, this is the 2016 map of Florida. We have the 2016 map. I could get the New York Times map here. Why is Florida? It could be very hard. This is the map of Florida here, and this is the chains of Florida. Look at Miami. This is Miami. Red. It's red all over the place. Yes, it trended blue here, but look at Tampa, trended red. Kissimmee, Orlando, trended red. The only place that trended blue was Jacksonville, but all of Florida is basically trending the Republican way. So you see all of these red areas here. Even places like Broward County trended white, which is pretty hilarious. But yeah, a lot of Florida trended white. I think these trends will continue to accelerate in the future. So again, some of these places like maxed out, but again, Florida is a very Republican state, basically, has become now. Again, in Florida, you have really huge you have a lot to improve in Florida. You have all these pink counties that you can definitely improve in Florida, especially the southern part of the state around Lee County, Tower County, and Collier County. Which I think because of, Ron DeSantis' leadership, I think a lot of these counties will continue to trade red in the future. And places like Miami-Dade going down from 63% to just 7% red for the Democrats. That's really, really bad news. It might be like the first metropolitan area to really flip to the Republicans. You also have Tampa Bay, which has trended to the right as well. Hillsborough, as well, which actually trended to the right by like 1 point. And that's it. And the Tampa area trended by a couple points right. But you have Orlando. Again, Orlando basically was like the libertarians just voted for Biden. The vote party, there was less of a third party vote. But yeah, a lot of these areas basically trended. Some of the cities did trend to the left, but I think that there's gonna be a vote. Miami trended to the right. You have Orlando is gonna start trending to the right. I think the whole state will. So and Democrats are gonna really struggle in some of these areas like Miami-Dade, and they continue to lose with the Cuban voters. They're gonna do worse in Orlando, despite Disney being down. They're gonna probably lose Tampa, and they probably might even lose Duval County as well. And they might do worse around the Tallahassee. And of course, they're not gonna win the Florida Panhandle, which has been getting redder and redder. I don't know how redder it can get, but this area has been getting redder. This upper part of the state has been getting redder, and this part of the state has been getting redder over time. And also let's forget we have the voter advantage in Florida as well. Yeah. And we have the voter registration by party affiliation. Okay. There are 4.9 million Democrats in Florida and 5.1 million Republicans. And this state basically flipped This state would still had a deficit in 2020 of 100,000 Democrats. Okay, and still voted for Trump by like 300,000 votes. So that means the state is gone for the Democrats. They're gone. Okay, it's now considered a wrong side. And the Democratic Party really has to blame themselves because the Democrats, they basically, you know, say basically like, oh, okay, and Florida is the only state where the socialism arguments really work. In Florida, that's the only because you have Miami and all these states that are massively going against. So yeah, this is the first wrong side state because again, Democrats I don't think are gonna win Florida anytime in the future. This is the 2016 map. It can definitely tell that some of these areas and these areas where the Democrats basically dominate barely moved in Florida. Okay, they barely moved. They barely moved in Florida. They barely moved. So the Democrats barely moved except for Duval. So basically, they're all Florida trended right. So that's the wrong side state. Unlike Georgia, Florida I think is the wrong side state for the Democrats. Another state that I think is a wrong side state for the Democrats in the future is Ohio. Okay, Ohio is another state that used to be a swing state, but has basically became a Republican stronghold. Ohio, yeah, what it's still considered. It's funny they still consider Ohio a toss-up state. They still consider the media still considers the state a toss-up state, but Ohio is basically a Republican state now. Republicans always struggle in places like Columbus, Dayton. I think that's what Dayton is. Cincinnati, Toledo, and Cleveland. That's the only places where they have to really improve in. Yeah, because they did worse. Republicans did worse in Columbus. They did worse in. They actually did better than Dayton, but they did worse in Cincinnati as well, and they did better in Cleveland, and they did better in Toledo. But yeah, there's another state that I do not really think Democrat, and yeah, they did worse in Montgomery as well. But despite this, Trump did won by the same margin basically, and Ohio basically trended. Some parts of Ohio basically trended to the right very much. Yeah. Oh, like the Cleveland area is trending to the right, massively to the right, and Ohio was one of the couple of states that trended to the right of the nation, especially the Appalachia areas as well. You have like no chance of really winning Appalachia anymore. That part of the country is gone for the Democrats. But yeah, a lot of these areas have trended towards the Republicans. Next state, yeah, we're not gonna talk about states like Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi. We're not gonna talk about those states. I don't think Democrats are gonna win Mississippi anytime soon. Mississippi trended slightly to the left, but Mississippi has basically stayed the same. They've been most of the South except for like Georgia and North Carolina and Virginia. Those are the states that really have changed. But yeah, North Carolina trended Republican by like a point. They were trended Democrat in 2020, but Trump still won it basically. Agree. And then we have South Carolina as well. I don't think Democrats are going to win South Carolina anytime soon. South Carolina, I think, is one of those states where it is basically a state that, Now, South Carolina, again, if you go throughout the years of South Carolina has basically stayed the same since 2008, since McCain won the state by like 14. It is the Republicans' worst performance in like decades, but it's not really something to worry about because they still won many of the areas like Carlson, Beaufort. They still won most of these areas. I think it will probably rebound in 2022 from anger from the right wing, and they still have control over most of the major areas like Greenville, Rock Hill, up here. They do not have of course Columbia, which is in the central part of the area of the state. But you have areas like, Columbia and stuff. There are Democrat areas, but you have Lexington, which is a big county, Beaufort, and Hoy. Some of these big voter blocks for Republicans. The only real area the Democrats really win is Colombia and Charleston. Those are the only voter blocks, huge voter areas. And they also win some of these, smaller counties, these small majority black counties. That's the only other places they're really winning, basically. But, but most of the state is very red. Same thing with, states like Alabama. This is basically similar to the state of Alabama, where basically they do really well in the central part of the state where there's most majority blacks, but they do horrendously in the northern part of the state. They do horrendously in most of the state of Alabama. It's the same thing with South Carolina, it's the same thing with Mississippi as well, and Louisiana and Arkansas. Most of the deep south, with the exception of Georgia and North Carolina, the only states would consider swing state would be Georgia and Virginia. Okay, even North Carolina is becoming the wrong side because they have a lot of military veterans in North Carolina. This part of the state here, this part of the state right here is trending Republican. This part of the state is trending Republican as well. Cool. So actually, this part of the state is trending Democrat, but they have a lot of room to really grow in these rural parts of the state. They have a lot of room to grow in the coastal regions. The only places that they make do worse is the triangle of metropolitan areas: Fayetteville, Raleigh, Greensboro, and Charlotte as well. Those are the places that Democrats do best in, are the big areas, the big cities, basically. They do really good in those. In the research triangle, basically, they do pretty good there. But they do really badly in places like here, and here. And yeah, Biden couldn't win, North Carolina. He did pretty well nationwide, but he still couldn't win North Carolina. So yeah, if Biden can't win, I don't think Democrats are gonna win the state anytime soon. Unlike Georgia, where Biden won Atlanta. And actually, look at Atlanta. It's really the suburbs that trended westward, and the Atlanta city trended rightward, which is very interesting as well. So yeah, the suburbs of Atlanta trended left, but Atlanta itself, southern Atlanta, and Atlanta city proper actually trended rightward. And Texas, yeah, people made videos about Texas before. We don't need to talk about Texas, but yeah. I think the only other long shot states for Democrats to win is Nebraska, Kansas, and Montana. Okay, Montana, they do have a lot of liberal-leaning counties. Like Gallatin, Dillard, Silver Bowl, Missouri, and Glacier County. Those are the only real Democrat voting blocks as well. They're going to have to do better in Yellowstone County. They're going to have to do better in Cascade County. But yeah, it's going to be very, very hard to probably win most of these other counties, especially these rural counties. But Montana, and same thing with, same thing with Idaho as well. It's going to be very, very hard to win the state of Idaho, basically. And Wyoming, yeah, they have no chance. Utah, Mormons are not going to vote for Democrats outside of only Salt Lake City really votes Democrats. So yeah, really, there's not really many states that are the only real states that Democrats could have a solid reign could be Florida, the Texas, and North Carolina. Texas, we're gonna talk about Texas. Okay, the cities are basically approving, but again, I already explained. You have this, which I already showed multiple times. This whole entire area is training Republican. The only places that will really train Democrats are the cities. These like Houston and San Antonio. But again, I think Democrats are going to start getting maxed out in these cities, which is going to be pretty bad for them in the future elections as well. Kansas is another place that is trained Democrat, but it's mostly just all over the place. I don't really think the state's going to become a blue state anytime soon. Kansas is just a weird state, and Nebraska. These two states are very weird states. And yeah, I don't think Republicans in the next 20 years have a chance of winning Washington, Oregon. They might have a chance of winning a state like Illinois, if they have extremely good candidates. And they might have a chance of winning back Georgia. in Minnesota. They might have a chance of winning Minnesota. And of course, New Mexico, which a lot of the state actually trended rightward, with the exception of the exception. Where was it? I think even Albuquerque trended Republican. But yeah, look at again, because Democrats do not know how to do with rural voters. Those states that really they have a chance of winning is probably North Carolina, Florida, and Texas, because they do have big cities. Tennessee's mostly rural states still. Tennessee's another really. Tennessee will be the last one we talk about, because. But again, they're gonna have to do better in Hamilton. They're gonna have to do better in Knox. They're gonna have to do better, way better in Davidson County. They have to get Chicago numbers for Davidson and Selby, which is well Memphis and Nashville is. And of course, they're gonna have to do better in the suburbs, where they do abysmally. Say if they have Indiana, they're gonna have to do better in Marion and Wake, and Monroe. They're gonna have to do better in this place up here. I don't remember to say his name, but they're gonna have to do better in the Indianapolis suburbs, which as well. They're gonna have to do better in Monroe as well. I think that's where Bloomington. It's Fort Wayne and Bloomington. South Bend's up there. They have to do They have to do way better in South Bend. There wasn't really much room to grow in Indiana. They have Indianapolis and the suburbs have trended leftward, but it's gonna be very. I think that Indiana's gonna trend rightward like the rest of the Midwest in 2024. Even Illinois will trend rightward. I believe in 20. I think every state will probably trend rightward like in 2016. You can see a similar map to like this. This is the 2016 trend. You can still see some areas probably trend leftward, or like some cities basically. And you could probably see California still trend leftward, and Oregon, Washington, and parts of Texas. Even in 2016, Zapata did, but Trump did better in Zapata than Obama. No, not Obama, and than McCain, and Hillary underperformed Obama and Zapata. But yeah, Texas is a long shot, because at least for the next 10 years, because you're gonna have to win. The Democrats are losing the Rio Grande Valley really quickly. I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this decade El Paso becomes competitive. By the end of this decade, if solid immigration reform gets passed. But yeah, 2016 was really the shift in the white working class. That's what it really was. And of course, in 2020, as you know, a lot of the shift was among Hispanics. And and of course some Chinese communities in New York. Basically. That was basically the gigantic shift in many of these counties in 2020. So that's basically about this video. So Democrats, I think, have a chance in the future, and a long shot chance of in Florida and North Carolina, and maybe Texas could be competitive. That's basically all they really get. And maybe they have a long shot chance of in a state like Mississippi, but Mississippi is already a cursed enough state as it is, in Alabama. They may have a chance of in Mississippi, in Louisiana. No, because they have a Democrat governor. And Ohio is another one of those states, a long shot state, because the state is trending so far to the right that it's probably going to be safe Republican by the end of this decade. Same with Wisconsin as well. But yeah, Montana is and then you have the long shots, like for example, Republicans flipping Washington or Oregon or Illinois. It's like Democrats flipping Montana, Utah, Nebraska, and Kansas. It's just not going to happen. So that's basically about this video. Goodbye.